Hey, what's up? Welcome to another edition of the Mandatory Live. We've been going crazy on the lives for about a week now, but we're happy that you're here with us. Make sure to follow us on our social media channels. We're at the Mandatory TKO, and also hit that like and subscribe button if you like the content. It also helps the channel grow. We have to get into some big news that came out last week, and this one kind of shook the boxing world after Ryan Garcia shocked the boxing world. He shocked it again. He tested positive for PEDs before and after his fight with Devin Haney. And Bryan, your thoughts on this? What he actually tested for was two PEDs. One of them was called Ostarine, and that also pretty much, if you're cutting, it helps you keep your muscle mass. It also strengthens your tendon. So a lot of people believe that maybe, his strength when he was punching Devin Haney had something to do with that. But nonetheless, this is all alleged, even though the positive test came out. Ryan Garcia also requested a B sample. Those results have not come out just yet. But Bryan, your thoughts on all this, and what does it mean for Ryan Garcia?
Frankie Montas tested positive for this. If you follow baseball, and he got suspended 80 games. Just Ostarine was in his system, and a lot of these drugs, athletes take them. Like not all athletes, but like athletes who get banged for some of this and testing positive. Like, yeah, these are the drugs that are in their systems. Which we actually covered this as it related to Alicia Baumgartner, which nothing seemed to happen to her, but she had shit in her system that like Alex Rodriguez and other baseball players had, like real steroids that people would get suspended over. But boxing is boxing, so it is what it is. The Ryan Garcia thing is interesting. He's requested a B sample tested, and we don't know the results of that yet. Somebody posted a video claiming that they knew the results, but the video was just like a nothing burger, so nothing came out of that. That was probably to juice some views. So I think with Ryan Garcia, like, listen, if he tested positive for this, which he did, but if it comes out like, because he's claiming, he's doing the whole thing. How could I have cheated? Here's an email which proves nothing. Somebody on my team framed me, like all this, the shit that people normally do when they get caught with these things. Innocent until proven guilty. But typically, like when you test positive for steroids, you did them. Like that's kind of how this one works. And if we find out that he is to blame for this, I guess is how I'll frame it, then yeah, he should be suspended. The fight should be a no contest. Devin Haney goes back to being undefeated. Ryan Garcia gets suspended for however long they determine is right. And there it is. Like I remember Kenichi Ogawa, after fighting Tevin Farmer in late 2017. First of all, it was one of the worst robberies in boxing, like that I could remember. They gave Kenichi Ogawa the win despite getting outboxed, but then they found that he tested positive for drugs, illegal substances after the fact, and he was the champion. He had won the title from Tevin Farmer, but then they reversed the decision, no contest, and he was suspended for like a year or whatever the case may be. And he ended up winning the title again later on. So I think with Ryan Garcia, like, yeah, this is damning considering this was allegedly in a system. We'll still say allegedly. Um, 3 pounds overweight on top of that, so he didn't make weight. And the reason why we've been waiting to talk about this is because we've been waiting for more information. And boxing is boxing. We're slow on the information here, so we're not going to not talk about it. And yeah, I think that's what should happen if he's positive, and if he's like totally guilty. And if not, then we wipe it away. You keep things the way they are, and then everyone proceeds as is.
Yeah, so we're still waiting on more information to be released. I think the important thing is how much he had in his system, because he did end up posting, and I feel like this part means nothing. He kept on posting his VADA test previously before he obviously tested positive before the fight and after the fight, but there was like a 2 week period where there was no testing involved. He could have been taking it then. This is all alleged, of course, innocent until proven guilty. However, I think the amounts in a system that really matters, because Ostarine and the other PD that was found as well, which is testosterone essentially, those things are found in supplements. So maybe he took a bad supplement. We don't know. It depends how much was in his body. And that's the main thing. If we found out he had like ridiculous amounts in his body, then he clearly did it, right? But if we find out that it was like a really, really tiny amount of Ostarine, then it might have just been like a dirty supplement. And so there are supplements that everyone take, like bodybuilders and stuff like that. I take supplements. I might have Austrian in my body. I don't know. Like there could be a dirty supplement. Okay.
Come on.
I have supplements on my desk right now. Okay. So
You better read those ingredients.
I'm not bulky like that, but I'm just saying that there are dirty supplements, and like Austrian is found in supplements, right? So if he took a supplement, regardless, when you're a boxer and you're fighting and you have a fight coming up, you are responsible for everything that you put in your body. So listen, it depends on the amount. We are going to be finding out that information, I'm sure, throughout the next few weeks. Sometimes with boxing, it takes a little while. But I think the most important part here is that if Ryan Garcia is found guilty, then this is like the same thing. I believe Amir Khan got caught for PEDs in the end of his career, but he got suspended for like 2 years. I don't know. But there should be a suspension, and Devin Haney would then still be undefeated. This to me, I think is really, it taints Ryan Garcia's career. Right when you think that he's taken a turn and he's got the biggest win of his career, defeating someone like Devin Haney, who was undefeated in the lightweight division, this happens. And I think this is something that will stick alongside Ryan Garcia for the rest of his career, and he's not going to be able to hide from that.
So you mentioned Amir Khan. To back up your point, it was a 2-year suspension. So this is actually funny. The anti-doping officially suspended him 2 years after one of his tests for his February 2022 bout loss to Kell Brook revealed trace amounts of Osterine. Right back what we're talking about. So he got 2 years for that. I think he just retired after that at that point. And
Yeah,
some
it was the
people,
end of his career, so like he probably didn't even
yeah,
care.
he also lost that fight. I think that's either before or after. I think that was after Kell Brook lost to Terrence Crawford, and then Kell Brook and Amir Khan finally fought after they should have fought like seven, no joke,
Yeah.
6 years earlier. I agree with XL in the comments who says you're either pregnant or you're not. Like that's kind of what this is. Like,
You know, sometimes you're not, and you think you are, and there's a test that comes out positive, but it's really not. So no, XL, that's not like a fair comment.
eventually you find
No,
out,
but
don't
still,
you?
you can think that you're pregnant though. You can take a test and be like, "Oh my god, I'm pregnant," and then you can even go to your like OBGYN and then find out that you're not.
I
This like
also
this is real stuff. Like that's
no,
a
no, no.
terrible
I'm
comment,
listen.
XL. That we're gonna nix that comment because like you can think that you're pregnant and you're actually not. So that I get what you're trying to say, but that comment doesn't make any
Let
sense.
let. All right, we're gonna let that one go. Um, I and any other comments, let us know what you think about the Ryan Garcia stuff. We actually did have a couple others that I'm gonna get to in a second. But yeah, ultimately, like again, most of the times when you test positive for these things, it's because you had them in your system, knowingly, unknowingly, whatever. It's kind of up to you and your team as a boxer and as somebody, as you said, you're putting stuff in your body. You can take supplements, but some supplements you can't. Like there are levels to what kinds of supplements, and we've heard Canelo complain about bad Mexican meat or whatever the case may be. Like you're supposed to know these things, and this is why you have like nutritionists and trainers and managers and things of that nature to help keep you on check. Okay, so hustle, no, not hustle man, because we're gonna get to that later. IMPK 13, but hustle man, if you want to leave another comment about this, let us know. IMPK 13, and this is something we talked about leading up to the fight, Chantel. Ryan Garcia looked unusually big. Like people were commenting before like the weigh-ins and before
Mhm.
press conferences and things of that nature. Like, yo, this dude is not going to make weight. IMPK 13, I noticed how big Ryan's arms were before the fight. I did not think anything of it at the time. The fight should be declared a no contest. He definitely looked a lot leaner against Tank, though, different weight class and things of that nature. But even the rehydration, man, like, come on.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate because it's like you're gonna deny it, right? Most of the time when someone gets busted for PEDs, they deny it. But Ryan Garcia saying that, he was set up and all of this, it's like if you didn't do it, just get your B sample tested and go through the process. If you didn't do it, you'll be found not guilty. They'll see how much was in your body. And if you did it, then we'll know. It's pretty simple, right? All the other antics, there's no need for it. But I understand it's Ryan Garcia, so we're gonna see that side of it. But it's really unfortunate. And Bryan, here's the one thing that I ask.
Uh-huh.
If he Let's do two questions for this.
Sure.
If he isn't guilty, how do you think that fares for him? And would he still be considered possibly top 10 on the pound for pound list? Maybe he gets in there. Do you still think of him as one of the best at 140 if he's not guilty?
I,
Like
I
if there was a tiny amount, like it was a dirty supplement.
I don't think he can. One, I think he's going to be a welterweight now
Mhm.
because he kind of was like insinuating he can't make 140 at this point, which is crazy to think about because he came up as a lightweight. But typically, when you take no, I'm kidding. I think I don't know if he's on the pound for pound list necessarily because like even still he was 3 pounds overweight for that fight. I think he still gets all the things that come with hey he beat Devin Haney, but also like we can't overlook that he missed weight and people would say oh it's only 3 pounds. Ryan Garcia tried to say this, oh it's only 3 pounds, but like you're a boxer, you know the importance of making weight. Like if you compete in boxing and mixed martial arts and whatever your combat sport is where there are weight classes, one of the things that you will lose respect for is failing to make weight, even if you're off by a pound 2 pounds. Like this is just something you have to do. Like it's for us it's like showing up to work doing the basic mundane shit that we do at our jobs, right? Whether it's writing emails or whatever, like that's what making weight is for fighters. It's just an essential thing. You have to make there are fighters who've never missed weight before, right?
Yeah.
Like Marlon Esparza recently lost 3 world titles or whatever it was because she was like a pound or two overweight. And it's like, yeah, like when you're the champion, especially, but like when you're a fighter in general, like, yeah, you make weight. Like that's your job. That's the first part of your job. And the second is obviously like fighting and things of that nature, like actually competing. But you have to make weight. So I still think it's a big win for him. But even if he gets off free here, you could still argue that it's somewhat tainted. I still give him credit for how he fought and things like that, but there's still a lot there, like how much he rehydrated up to, and just the weight thing. But he beat Devin Haney, and we will still say he beat Devin Haney if if he gets off on this. But I'm not sure he will, honestly, given what we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think if he does come out and he's innocent, because innocent until proven guilty, obviously, I think that's still a massive win for him. I think he can still do whatever he wants in boxing in terms of fights. He did say he wants to move up. Maybe we get a fight with him and Teofimo Lopez. But of course, Bryan, I think the bigger story would be if this is all true. Because then not only does it taint his career, Ryan Garcia will then likely serve a suspension. It will probably be a long suspension. It might be like Amir Khan because they literally tested positive for the same thing. And if it is a 2-year ban, then he comes back, and I don't know if he's the same fighter that he was before.
There's already people that think that he might not be in the sport that long because he wants to pursue other things, be a star, whatever. So I feel like that'll probably just accelerate that process. Like he may just frame it as like, oh, boxing did me wrong, so I'm out and I'm gonna just go be famous and do what it is I do and what it is I want.
Make rap songs. Yeah, I honestly think that if Ryan Garcia, if it gets proven that he was guilty, that he took the PEDs and then he serves like a 2-year ban, like Amir Khan, which I'm just going by because it was the same drug. I think Ryan Garcia would exit out of boxing because at that point, how hard is it going to be to get redemption? I think maybe he'd want it, but it would be extremely hard. And at that point, like I think he would be kind of looked funny. His career would be tainted. And if anything, I not only am would feel really bad for Devin Haney throughout this whole entire process if Ryan Garcia does come back guilty, because not only did listen, the way that he lost was bad, right? People are talking about his chin, but it's also dangerous. Like if Ryan Garcia did this, he put Devin Haney in a very, very dangerous position. And I gotta hate that for Devin Haney. That's probably the worst thing you could do to somebody.
Like it always reminds me of Miguel Cotto and Antonio Margarito when stuff like this happens. That's another one that's like super high profile that I could think of. we know about the plaster wraps. So it wasn't a steroid that Margarito tested positive for. And for people who are less familiar, Miguel Cotto was welterweight champion fighting Antonio Margarito. This was in 2018, and I remember there being 2018, 2008, excuse me. It was in 2008, so it was a while ago. And Miguel Cotto was basically in like his prime. Antonio Margarito was a dangerous, dangerous fighter. It was one of Puerto Rico, Mexico's like most famous fights, and Margarito beat the shit out of him. Right, like Miguel Cotto boxed well early on, but you could see the punches were wearing on him, and it was unusually strong. Margarito was in that fight, and he like fucking messed up his face. There was blood everywhere. Miguel Cotto, things of that nature, took a knee at one point, like willingly, and he got stopped in the 11th round. And then it came out that he had plaster wraps leading up to that fight. It was exposed like before the Shane Mosley fight, and then Shane Mosley beat the fuck out of Antonio Margarito in the next fight, which is like probably one of the most satisfying performances ever if you're a boxing fan who is just a fan of like people getting their comeuppance. Antonio Margarito got suspended, and then years later in 2011, they fought in December. I think it was December 3rd. Miguel Cotto got his rematch, and he called for it. Like he was a champion again. He wanted to go back and get his revenge, and he did because it was the same type of fight in terms of like how they were moving around the ring. Just Margarito's punches didn't have as much sting, and Cotto was beating the fuck out of him, closed his eyes shut, and TKO'd him after 9 rounds. The fight got stopped. Devin Haney said he didn't want, reportedly said he didn't want, or no, he said this. He's not interested in the rematch, which to me is kind of like he doesn't trust that it'll be fair. But man, I would want my rematch. Like, oh my god, I would even if the person
Yeah.
gets suspended, comes back, like, whoo, come on, man.
If I'm Devin Haney, I want the rematch because he got absolutely annihilated in that ring. So much so that people are looking at Devin Haney and looking at him like, yo, I could easily beat him. That's how Devin Haney's being looked at right now because of his chin, because of how he got dropped. And already people were talking about how he had pillow fists. So I don't think it's a good look, but I feel bad for Devin because of the
That's the other
situation
thing.
that he's in. I feel extremely bad for him. He could have been hurt in this whole thing.
That's why Ryan looked like Ryan broke his jaw. We were talking about on the time of the fight, so that could have been much much worse. And now, like even going forward, if Devin Haney has a soft chin, because I was gonna say chin and Haney and
Okay,
shit.
I got it. I got
Yeah,
it. I
yeah,
got it. I got it.
professional broadcaster, folks.
Yeah,
Devin Haney, uh,
still funny.
if he has a bad chin from here on out, like a soft chin from here on out as a result of this fight, then yeah, that's dangerous because I would argue, even though Miguel Cotto still became first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the best of his era, like if he doesn't have that first Margarito experience, maybe his chin is better for when he fights guys like Manny Pacquiao, for when he fights, later on in his career. And maybe he actually does fight Oscar De La Hoya immediately after, which is a rumor at that time. I don't know if that was going to happen because De La Hoya was pretty much done after the Mayweather fight
Yeah.
or the Pacquiao fight, actually, the Pacquiao fight. But like, imagine that. Like, Cotto would have had an even better career had that first Margarito experience not happened. So we don't know how this is going to change Devin Haney yet.
Yeah, and that's kind of the unfortunate thing. I hope Devin Haney comes back better than ever, but listen, I would want the rematch, and we're going to find out more information as the weeks go on, probably months, to be honest with you. Sometimes it takes forever to get all the information, but we will keep you updated here at the Mandatory. Let's get to some more comments, Bryan, and then we're going to get into our breakdown for George Kambosos and Lomachenko. Let's go over to a comment here. Let's go back to XL because I think he kind of makes an interesting point here. To be honest, a 2-year suspension without taking a percentage of his purse is just a paid vacation. Do you believe that his purse should be taken away, Bryan? If he,
Probably.
yeah.
If you're gonna rule it a no contest, and he's the reason it happened, then yeah, probably. He seems to give off that he doesn't care about money like that. So I mean, I don't know how much it'll affect him. He didn't make weight, and he gave Devin Haney like as a side bet 500 grand for every pound he was over reportedly, and that's 1.5 million. So I mean, Yeah, sure.
All right, great. Let's go to the next comment right here. IMPK13. Ryan has no big wins over 135. He made weight and was clean. His whole career is one punch against Luke Campbell. He doesn't have like those names that pop out to you, but I do feel like Oscar Duarte was a tough fight. I know I'm a nerd to say something like that, but that's a tough fight. Like that's not someone that you just win over, right? Oscar Duarte is like a tricky fighter. He does have power. So I do believe that was like a good win for him. But when you think about big names, like yeah, Devin Haney would be the biggest name. Like having Devin Haney on your list is massive, right? But now that is tainted because we don't know the information. What do you feel about IMPK 13 saying that Ryan Garcia doesn't really have any big names?
Yeah, we were talking about this before the fight, and this is why I didn't think he was going to win the fight because leading up to it, his best wins were probably Luke Campbell, Javier Fortuna, who I'm probably higher on than most people, who's a former world champion, but also he was in a weight class above where one or two weight classes above where he was like good, like really good, also older. And like, yeah, Oscar Duarte, which, nice win. But at the same time, like Devin Haney, like again, you pull their resumes together. Haney had much better wins leading up to this in terms of names, in terms of, just resume overall. I don't think Ryan Garcia's resume is bad, by the way. Like I wouldn't go as far as to say that, but it just wasn't up to the standard that like Devin Haney is, and maybe perhaps some of his peers.
Yeah, I agree. For Ryan Garcia, though, there's so many questions, and I think the most frustrating part is probably how he's handling the whole situation. A lot of people aren't a fan of that at all. Let's to get a look at some more comments now. This is kind of an interesting one. We'll go back to IMPK 13 really quick. Should boxing outlaw fights when a fighter is more than 1 pound overweight?
Well, Devin Haney, like for example, I reportedly he knew about this. Well, one of the one of the issues and went ahead with the fight anyway. I feel like you could leave it up to the discretion of the fighter because some fighters might not give a shit and just be like, "I'll beat him anyway," and sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. Um, I think yeah, I think you should leave it up to the fighter in that case, and their team. But I would add they should be advised well, like because you can't just be like all testosterone filled, be like, yeah, I don't give a fuck, because it might actually be dangerous. I think people need to be advised well on this.
Yeah, and 3 pounds is a lot. I think that was the most frustrating thing when people were like, "Well, it's only like 3 pounds." No, that's a lot. Like, that's a difference. That is a big difference. So it's not just a little bit. It's not like I really want to lose 3 pounds or something like that. It's a big difference. Let's go over to nerd. Fighters that tested positive that no one talks about: Tyson Fury, Roy Jones, Fernando Vargas, Shane Mosley. Yes, Canelo also tested positive as well.
That's
People
right.
people forget that for the bad meat, which is why I think Oscar De La Hoya was wearing that shirt, "Eat Meat" or something like that throughout the press conference all last week, or something like that. His meat shirt, whatever that was.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys have tested positive. That is true. Some have come out of those situations being innocent.
Hmm.
But there are some big names that have been tied to PEDs and in boxing. So,
And then you
like,
have people testing positive for shit like weed. You know what I mean? Which is like
yeah,
that's people like you should be able to smoke weed and fight.
yeah, you're gonna turn this into another conversation, depending on who we have here in
Didn't
the chat.
Tyson Fury test positive for cocaine?
That's different, okay? If you test
That'll
positive
help.
for,
That'll
yeah,
fucking help.
oh my
What is
god,
it
that's
like?
a I mean, I wouldn't know, but I feel like
Me
that would make
neither.
you a little bit crazy.
I watch a lot of Narcos. Nerd
Oh yeah.
also comments. Trinidad was accused of loading raps by Nassim Richardson. Not really. It was more so like the hand wrapping technique. They wanted him to rewrap a certain way because it was like a New York State rule, and they wanted him to like do it a certain way. And like Nazim Richardson, Bernard Hopkins, from my understanding, wanted him to rewrap his hands, and he did before the fight. And they threatened not to fight if he didn't rewrap his hands.
Ryan Hong, who always comes with the heat. Ryan, thanks for rocking with us this morning. If you test positive for cocaine and win a fight, you should get 2 green ticks on your boxer.